Peace and greetings. It's your girl Naya here, back for another 31 days of tarot. All right, so today is day 18, and we are talking about what cards relate to me personally, not just my astrological association or court cards. So for me, that's kind of hard to separate. Because I've actually broken out my birth or my natal chart into a spreadsheet and figured out what all my minor cards are, and all of that. So, and contemplated them and all that kind of stuff. So now there are minor cards that I tend to look at a little bit differently after spending significant time contemplating them. But I'll give you a few and I will talk about them. So the first one is the Five of Pentacles. This looks so pretty on this card, but a Rider-Waite Smith deck will show the two people out in the wintertime, in front, walking past the church and kind of looking kind of worn down and rugged and stuff like that. This is where my sun lands. This is my natal solar deacon card, okay? And after spending a significant amount of time contemplating on this, I'm like, oh, I don't like this card. This is not cool. Like, this is not the card that I want to see, right? But it's important to look at it fairly. Now this card in the Moonchild doesn't really depict this in that way, but it is Mercury in Taurus, and so the way that it works in my mind is that Mercury is aka Quicksilver. He's quick. He wants to talk, he wants to trade, he wants to think about like the stock market. There's just like da 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 da, like everything's moving fast, right? That's Mercury. He wants to zip around, zip 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 zip. And then you have Taurus, who is more slow going, it's more plodding, it's more, the energy of Taurus is much more restricted in that way and slower moving. So you got to think about you being in a rush to get somewhere and you have to wait. You're forced to be patient. It's not a good place to be in, right? It's kind of just like this antsiness that happens. Okay. With the Five of Pentacles imagery, you kind of see these two people moving through the snow. It's cold. They're outside. Things look rough. And what it brought to me, that the silver lining in that card, is that I've learned to be resourceful during difficult times. And what does that mean? Sometimes lack is the mother of creation. The whole starving artist concept is very much relevant in that card, in that we don't know what the circumstances of those people are, but if they're willing to go out in the condition that they're in the snow, first of all, they're not alone in that picture. So that's one. They have their will, their pure will of strength to continue to move forward even during difficult circumstances. And I have to say, I have gotten out of some tough ones, and it was because I felt pinned in a corner. And by looking around and observing, Mercury, looking around and observing and figuring out, okay, maybe I can use this and that and this and that, even though it's not conventionally put together, make something out of it and get myself out of this situation. So I've learned to appreciate the Five of Pentacles in the way it's like, don't feel sorry for me because I'm in this situation. Shit happens. It's life. But guess what? We got to figure it out. So it's like, put your big girl panties on and let's rock. Let's get this done, and it's happened so often in my life that I don't even recognize it as it being, I recognize it as one of my strengths. And I had to really sit with that to recognize that, oh, I do pretty good when things are under pressure, under stress. I'm that person that wants to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D in place in case one of those plans don't fall through. It's like insurance, right? You're paying insurance in case something else happens. But if everything goes good, we're going to sail on plan A. But if something else happens, we have a plan B in place to continue to move forward and things like that. So that's the Five of Pentacles for me is very significant in that way that I've contemplated it and broken it down astrologically and saw how it reflected a good portion of my life. And a lot of people have come to me over the years in these weird circumstances and like, well, what would you do in this situation? And a lot of times, I may have to mull it over or sleep on it or something like that. But then I'll come back and say, oh, you know what? You can probably do this and maybe it'll work. Have you tried that yet? And a lot of times they're like, no, I haven't tried it. I'm going to give it a shot, and then give it a shot and to get out of their situation. So it's like my superpower. And even though it is one of those cards that people don't want to see in a tarot reading, I found that silver lining. And so this card is just so much more enriched with meaning for me because of that. Now, another thing I struggle with in my personal natal chart is that I have a lot of Aries placements. And so by having a lot of Aries placements is, I'm definitely passionate and fiery and I want to go for it and stuff like that. So my moon deacon sign is the Four of Wands. And with as many things as I have experienced in my life, I was surprised that this card was a card of mine, breaking it down wise. Because this is like the happy home, the celebration, the stability of the four, it's like the hearth fire, because the stability of the four with the fire energy, the creative energy, the passion energy. It's Venus in Aries, this card, the Four of Wands. Yes. And while Venus is not particularly in the best position, it's still a favorable type of energy to have. I think in comparing it to the Five of Pentacles as like, hey, I found my silver lining here. I do have a steady kind of passion to have things look pretty, to make people feel welcome, to keep my house looking nice, to create beautiful things, typically those that are of sound. And so the whole YouTube thing, even though I've been doing it for a little bit over a year now, is a new medium for me. But anything audio, I'm there for it. I've done my hip hop, which that's like, it feels like another lifetime. But I still do it, and it's more therapeutic than anything for me. And I always go back to that when I'm feeling really, really stressed out. So I found a way of taking this, this impassioned, fiery, creative energy, and found a way to make it useful or productive versus something negative and destructive. So that's why I like creating my music. It's not to get rich, it's not for any of that kind of stuff. It's for personal artistic expression. And I feel like the Four of Wands really does that, because I have all my equipment and all that stuff. It's all set up at home, which is kind of like the home card. And I relish in it. Every now and then I revisit old stuff and I remember what I went through. I remember the time, the place. So it's kind of been like an ongoing audio diary, if you will, because I like write it all encoded with things and stuff like that. So anyways, Four of Wands, that's that one. And last but not least, the Nine of Cups. So the Nine of Cups is This has nothing to do with my astrological anything. But when I see this card, it always reminds me to change my fuentes. Like, so I guess, you know, one of the things that I never really talked about on my channel is like, what is my spiritual, you know, thing? And I guess really I'm spiritualist. That's the easiest way to break it down to. So fuentes being the water that I keep around the altars, and for my ancestor altar, for my personal working altar, for around the house. Fuentes are super important, glasses of water, because water is the filter in which the spirits work. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but anytime I see the Nine of Cups though, it reminds me to spend time. Even though I do it all the time, I just feel like it's an extra message for me saying, hey, don't forget to take care of this today. And so I'll you know, work, you know, clean out my altars, basically refreshing the altars, if you will, and refreshing the fuentes. So yeah, so that's that. Those are my cards that are significant to me, that that still have astrological associations to me, most of them except the Nine of Cups, which is more spiritually natured for me. So until the next one, thank you for watching. Much love, many blessings. Peace.